When you both go silent, most people think the game is over. It's not. The game just started. And almost nobody realizes this. They think silence means it's done, it's dead, there's nothing left to figure out or understand or work through. But the truth is the complete opposite of that. The moment you stop reaching out and he stops reaching out too, that's not the end of something. That's the beginning of the most important part of this whole thing. And what happens inside that silence? What happens to him and what happens to you during that time when neither of you is saying a single word? That is what decides everything. Not the conversations you had before, not the arguments, not the last message that never got a reply. This silence right here, the one you're sitting in right now, this is where it all gets decided. And most people are completely blind to what's actually happening inside it. And that's exactly why they lose. Because while you're sitting there wondering if he's even thinking about you, something is already moving on his side. Something is already shifting underneath the surface that you can't see yet. And while you're going back and forth in your own head about whether to break the silence or hold it, whether to send something casual or just stay quiet a little longer, the silence is already doing something to both of you that neither of you asked for and neither of you can stop. Understanding what that is, really understanding what is happening right now on both sides of this quiet, that's what changes your entire position in this situation. So stay with me here, because what I'm going to walk you through is going to change how you see everything about where you are right now and what's actually possible from here. You stop texting. He stops texting. And now there's just this space sitting between you that has real weight to it, like it's resting on your chest a little every single day. Even when you're doing other things, you keep yourself busy. You go through your normal routine. You do all the things you're supposed to do to keep moving forward. But somewhere in the back of your mind, that one question is always sitting there no matter what else is going on around you. Does he even notice that I went quiet? Does he care at all that I stopped reaching out? Or is he just out there living his life completely fine, not carrying any of this, not thinking about me at all while I'm over here feeling every single bit of this completely on my own? That question follows you everywhere, into your mornings before you even fully wake up, into conversations with friends where you're laughing on the outside, but part of your mind is still back there with him, into the quiet of the night when everything gets louder and harder to push away, and the thoughts come back whether you want them to or not. You would honestly rather have a painful, completely clear answer than keep sitting in this fog where nothing is certain and everything just hangs there unresolved. At least a painful answer is something solid you can stand on. At least a painful answer tells you exactly where you stand and gives you somewhere real to move from. But this silence gives you nothing to hold on to, just this open, heavy, uncertain feeling that follows you around like a shadow and won't quite leave no matter how hard you try to focus on something else entirely. And here's the part that most people never get told, the part that changes everything once you actually understand it. He is not feeling what you're feeling right now. Not in those first days, not even close. And I know that lands hard when you first hear it, but stay with me, because understanding this one thing is what actually starts to shift the whole situation in your favor. When the silence first kicks in, when those first few days pass without any contact from either side, he feels something that you probably would never expect him to feel. He feels relief, not because you don't matter to him, not because he never cared about what the two of you had, not because he's a bad person who never felt anything real, but because silence doesn't land on men the way it lands on women. The way silence hits you and the way it hits him are two completely different experiences happening at the exact same time in the exact same situation. And if you don't understand that difference, you'll keep reading his behavior through the lens of your own feelings. And reading his behavior through your own feelings is what leads to every wrong move at every wrong moment. For you, silence feels like a warning signal going off, like something important just got cut off without any explanation. Because when things are genuinely good with someone you actually care about, there's this steady, quiet flow of connection running between you. Little messages through the day, check-ins that don't have to mean anything big, small moments where you both know you're on each other's minds. It doesn't have to be dramatic or intense. It's just this consistent thread that reminds you that that something real is there and it's still alive. And when that thread disappears, your brain doesn't just register it as quiet. It registers it as something being wrong, something that needs to be looked at and fixed, something missing that should still be there. And that feeling sits in your chest, and it doesn't go away just because you stay busy or tell yourself you're handling it fine. But for him, in those first days, the silence just feels like open space. No pressure coming at him from any direction. No need to figure out what to say or how to say it, or whether the last thing he said landed wrong. No emotional weight he has to work out how to carry or respond to. It just feels like room to breathe. And room at first honestly feels pretty good to most guys. So he fills that space with his regular life without much thought about it at all. Work, his friends, the gym, whatever normally keeps him occupied and moving. And for a little while, he is genuinely okay in that space. He's not sitting somewhere with his phone wondering if you're thinking about him. He's not going back through old conversations in his head trying to work out where things went sideways. He's just moving through his days, and the silence feels like something he can manage without any real effort. So while you're carrying the full weight of this during those first couple of weeks, he's coasting right through it. You're struggling and he's comfortable. You're lying awake and he's sleeping just fine. You're feeling all of it and he's barely feeling any of it yet. And that gap right there, that difference in how the silence hits each of you at the very start, that's the thing that makes most women break first. They feel the full force of it hitting them. They assume he must be feeling something similar on his end. And they reach out because they become convinced that if they don't do something, the whole thing is just going to quietly fade away into nothing and be gone forever. So they send something, and the moment they do, they hand back everything the silence was slowly and quietly building for them, without even knowing it was building anything at all. But here's the thing, they didn't wait long enough to find out. That comfortable feeling he has in the early silence has an expiry date. And it starts wearing off in the most quiet and ordinary moments when he least expects it. He sees something during his day, something small and completely random, and he knows instantly that you would find it funny. His first instinct is to send it to you, and then he remembers you two aren't talking right now. He has one of those days where everything just feels a little harder than it should, and he thinks about who he actually wants to talk to about it. And your name is right there, but you're not available to him the way you used to be. He's out somewhere doing something completely normal, and something happens. Nothing major at all, just a small, ordinary moment, and you are the first person he thinks of, and he can't do anything with that thought. And then it happens again the next day, and again the day after that. Each time it's small, each time it passes quickly, but those moments don't stop. They just keep coming, and they keep stacking on top of each other, and slowly, without him even fully tracking that it's happening, that open, comfortable space starts to feel less like freedom and more like something real is gone from it. Not in a dramatic, crashing way, not all at once, just this quiet, persistent undercurrent of something being missing that wasn't missing before. That's when the real shift starts happening on his side. That's the exact moment when the silence stops feeling easy and manageable and starts feeling like actual absence. And absence does something very particular to people that presence never does. It makes them think differently. It makes them go back and look at things from a completely different angle. It makes them start asking questions they were never asking before, when everything was comfortable and available. Did I take that for granted? Was what we had actually something real and good that I just let slip away without giving it proper thought? Is she doing okay? Is she even thinking about any of this anymore? Or has she genuinely already moved on and started building something new without me in it? And you want to know what's happening with you at that exact same moment he's starting to ask himself those questions. You're coming out the other side of the hard part. You've already been through the worst of it, You already did the overthinking, the replaying old conversations, the checking your phone every 20 minutes, putting it back down and picking it back up again. You already went through the stretch where the silence felt so heavy you weren't sure how you were going to keep carrying it. And now slowly, without making any big announcement about it, you're starting to feel different. You're starting to wake up in the morning and have a few minutes of just being awake before your brain goes back there. You're starting to laugh at things throughout your day and actually mean it. You're starting to have whole chunks of time where you're just present in what you're doing without him quietly sitting in the background of every thought. You're starting to feel just a little at first, and then more and more like yourself again. And the timing of that shift in you, the fact that you're starting to come back to yourself right at the exact moment he's starting to feel the loss of you, that's not a small thing. That difference in timing is everything, because you're moving forward while he's just now starting to feel what you felt at the very beginning of all this. You're starting to heal while he's just starting to hurt. You're finding your feet again while he's just now losing his footing. And that complete flip in timing is what changes the entire dynamic sitting between you. Because something else is happening underneath all of that while you're finding your footing again. You're changing, not in some big obvious way that announces itself, not in a way you'd even be able to fully describe if someone sat you down and asked you about it. Just quietly, in small and steady ways, day after day after day, you're reconnecting with the part of yourself that existed before him, the part that had its own rhythm and its own things going on, and its own clear sense of what felt good and what didn't. You're filling your time with things that actually matter to you and make you feel like yourself. You're spending real time with people who make you feel good just by being around them. You're having moments throughout your day where you feel genuinely okay. And that feeling isn't coming from anything he did or said or chose. It's just coming from you, from being present inside your own life. And every single one of those moments is quietly building something back inside you that had gotten worn down somewhere along the way without you even noticing it happening. Your sense of yourself, your confidence, your peace, that feeling of being a whole person whose worth doesn't depend on whether someone is texting her back. And that shift in you is not invisible, even across the silence. Even with no contact going back and forth between you, people feel when something has genuinely changed in someone they were once closely connected to. He can feel it even if he can't name it. Something in him picks up on the fact that your energy isn't sitting in the same place it was, that you're not waiting in the same way, that the version of you that was always available and always keeping the thread alive and always making it comfortable and easy for him to come back whenever he decided he felt like it, that version isn't just sitting there patiently anymore. And that feeling, that quiet but real sense that maybe you're not going to be there indefinitely, that the window might actually close at some point, that's what starts to move something genuinely real in him. Because when you were always the one reaching out, always the one keeping things going, always making sure he knew the connection was still there waiting for him, he didn't have to think seriously about losing you. You were the constant in the situation. You were the sure thing he could always come back to. And people don't lie awake at night thinking about losing the things they believe will always be there for them. They just take them for granted without even meaning to, without even realizing that's what they're doing. But now you're not doing that anymore. Now he genuinely doesn't know where things stand between you. Now there's a real question mark sitting over the whole thing that he can't answer just by picking up his phone. And that uncertainty, that actual honest not knowing, starts to take up more and more space in his head in a way that your constant availability never did. And this is when the small moves start appearing. A like on something you posted when he hasn't engaged with anything you've put out in weeks. A short, low-effort message showing up out of nowhere. Something like, hey, or just wanted to check in, with nothing real or substantial sitting behind it. No apology, no real attempt at a conversation. Just a small, quiet knock on the door to see if anyone is still home and if the lights are still on. That's him checking. That's him wanting to know if you're still there, if you still care, if the door is still open, and exactly how wide it is. And this is the exact moment where most people completely undo everything the silence was building for them. They see that message come through and everything in them lights up all at once. Finally, something, a sign that it wasn't all just in their head, and they respond immediately, warm and open and relieved. And in that one quick response, they hand him every single answer he was quietly looking for. She's still there. She still cares. The door is wide open, just like it always was. Nothing has actually changed on her end. And because nothing has changed, he doesn't need to do anything differently than he was doing before. He can slide right back into that same comfortable dynamic where you're available and warm, and he doesn't have to put in any real effort to keep you close. And just like that, you're back where you started, except now you've also shown him that the silence didn't actually change anything inside you, that he can always come back whenever he feels like it with minimal effort and find you exactly where he left you. So you don't do that. Not because you're trying to be cold or distant, not because you want to punish him or make him earn his way back through some kind of game, but because you genuinely aren't the same person you were when this silence first started. You genuinely do have more going on now. You genuinely are standing in a different place inside yourself. And when you respond from that place calm and unhurried and not anxious about where the conversation goes, he feels the difference immediately and completely. He can tell the difference between someone who has been sitting by her phone waiting for any sign of life and someone who picked her life back up and actually kept going with it. And feeling that difference is what makes him stop with the small, low-effort tests and start actually thinking seriously about what he wants and what he's genuinely prepared to do to have it. Because what he's really trying to work out with that short, casual message isn't just whether you'll write back. He's trying to figure out whether the dynamic is still the same as it was, whether he can still have access to you without truly choosing you, without really showing up in a meaningful way, without doing anything differently than he did before when things weren't working. And when the answer his gut gives him is no, when something in your energy and your response tells him clearly that things have shifted and you're not going to make it easy and comfortable without him bringing something genuinely real to the table, that's when he stops casually testing and starts actually feeling the full weight of what it would mean to lose you. And by the time you're in that moment, you are operating from a completely different place than where you were when all of this started. You're not making decisions from that anxious, tight, desperate feeling anymore. You're not responding out of fear that if you say one wrong thing, he'll disappear and you'll lose your chance forever. You're thinking clearly. You know what you went through inside this silence. You know exactly what it cost you to sit with all of that discomfort without running from it. And you know maybe more clearly than you have in a long time what you actually want. Not just what you were scared of losing, but what you actually want from your life and from the people you let into it going forward. That clarity is something you simply did not have before the silence came. And it is one of the most genuinely valuable things this whole difficult stretch gave you, even though it felt like nothing but pain while you were living inside it. Because here is the real truth sitting underneath everything else. The silence was never really about him. It was always about you, what you chose to do inside it, how you decided to move through it, whether you used it to actually come back to yourself or whether you spent it white-knuckling your way through the days, just waiting for him to make a move that would tell you how to feel. That choice is what determined everything. Not just whether he comes back, but who you are when he does. And who you are when he does is genuinely the whole thing. Because if he comes back and finds the same person who was always anxious and always available and always holding the door open no matter what he did or didn't do, nothing real changes. You just restart the same cycle and arrive at the same place again eventually. But if he comes back and finds someone who genuinely knows what she brings, who has real standards about how she deserves to be treated,